repeat is frankly the story of my life. Food is more than just sustenance. It brings such joy, and it has the power to make a real difference every single day. We all know that cooking can be a balm in troubled times, but more, I believe that the kitchen can be both a sanctuary and a pleasure palace. And that's something I am more than happy to celebrate repeatedly. Life would be incredibly dull, obviously, if we never ate anything new. But sometimes I just want the comfort of the familiar, and nothing for me matches the sweet solace of a creme caramel. And do you know, I hadn't actually thought of creme caramel for quite a long time. But recently, and please bear with me, I had embarked so foolishly on a decluttering project. And I started and I lifted out this, big box of stuff from under my bed, bits of paper, packages, and then I came across some old books, and they were my grandmother's recipe books. So obviously I stopped clearing up, sat back on the floor to read them all, and God, I had such a good time with them. And I love these old books. I like also the comments in them as well as the recipes. So here we got coffee souffle, excellent. Orange glory, mediocre. Yeah, that's no great surprise, is it? What else we got? Uncooked sweet, intriguing. And here, this is the recipe that really set me off, caramel custard. It just immediately brought to mind going to a restaurant with my grandparents when I was a child and seeing the miraculous invention of the dessert trolley come in and this creme caramel quivering there, which, I always picked. Now, creme caramel is very unfashionable now, and I don't think I've seen it on a menu for ages, but that doesn't matter because actually I prefer the creme caramel I can make at home because I can make it really, really softly set. And it's actually very easy to make. Obviously, you need to start with the caramel. So I get out a small saucepan and I spoon 2 tablespoons of caster sugar in it and then add 2 teaspoons of water and just melt it over very gentle heat, giving the pan a swirl every now and then. I know for a lot of people it is absurd to be making a creme caramel for one, but I can't say the charge troubles me. I mean, yes, it is a glorious absurdity and one that I'm always happy to embrace. I have to say, anyway, I like to be in the kitchen alone when I make caramel because I like the caramel to be as dark and as bitter as it can be without actually burning. The trouble is, if you have anyone else in the kitchen with you, they get anxious and want you to take the pan off the heat before it really is dark enough. As Tammy Wynette almost sang, stand by your pan, don't go anywhere, watching as it goes from pale gold to amber, and then somewhere that's darker than maple syrup and not quite chestnut. It's getting warmer. All right, dark honey now. And now it moves fast. So nearly there. I like to push it as far as it will go, so not quite. I rather like this brinkmanship. Any moment now. It's almost burning, but not quite, and in it goes. And then just lift it up and swirl it. Just a teeny bit up the sides. A ramekin ceramic or glass of 200 mils is right. This, in fact, is the bottom of a small preserving jar of mine. Excellent. So the caramel is done and I'm moving on to the creme. Although, having said that, I don't use cream here, but full-fat milk, 150 mils. And this just needs to be heated until it's lukewarm. And the advantage of using milk is you get that wonderful, mild, soft texture, which I think is crucial. Just feel how that is. Perfect. I have 2 egg yolks here at room temperature. And before I add the milk, I need 2 teaspoons of caster sugar. And only 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla. For just as the caramel should be intense and smoky, the custard should be mild. You can use a spoon. I find it easier to use a spatula. What you don't want to do is whisk, because you'll have a much smoother crème if you don't get a lot of air into what is essentially a custard. And now, slowly stirring a bit, pour the warm milk over. It's traditional, actually, to use whites and yolks for creme caramel, but I find it's using just yolks that makes this so luscious. Right, and this is when it's useful doing it in a glass jar. So I want to make sure all the egg mixture is incorporated. The caramel is pretty much set now. So the ramekin goes in the tin, and I always strain the custard on top of it. And I very rarely strain things. I remove any froth or bubble I see, just so that it is so smooth when it's baked. So that's done. Not much left to do. Cover with foil. And before putting this in the oven, I pour water in from a recently boiled kettle just to come about 1/3 of the way up the jar. And then it goes in an oven, a low one, 140 or 120 fan for 50 minutes. Though I remove the foil after 30. I have to say, a creme caramel is actually easy to make. The only thing hard for me is to make myself walk slowly and gently to the oven, so there are no spills. Once it's baked, I lift the creme caramel out of its water bath. It will be only just set and still have a bit of a wibble about it. Leave it to cool before refrigerating to set. And to aid on moulding, I pour water from a recently boiled kettle into a dish. And with a little palette knife, I gently loosen the edges of the creme caramel. Then I plunge it into the hot water bath for the count of 5. Then I cover the creme caramel with a saucer and very firmly turn it the other way up. I give the mould a shake so it knows I mean business, until I hear that muffled squelch as it slides down and out of the mould. Look at this copper top beauty. I always love that hallowed moment of unmoulding before I dive in. There are some times when only a bowl of pasta will do, but the thing is, for me, the mood I'm in really informs the pasta shape I want to eat. Now, you can see that I have 3 shelves here, so it is covering pretty much every eventuality. I must have been in a jaunty mood when I bought these stripy sombreros, and actually I am now, but I haven't worked out yet what the right sauce for them would be. Now these lorigitas are a Sardinian shape. They're made by hand and they look like babies' bracelets or maybe hair ties. And I first had them in a Sardinian restaurant with botarga and clams. But right now, I feel like something robust and hearty, which calls for fusilloni, which are comically large fusilli. And they're really good with this, which is indua, and I can best describe it, really, as a spicy salami paste. And it makes life so easy because it creates a near instant sauce. I'm going double carb. You know it makes sense. So in here, bubbling away, I've got a peeled and cubed potato, and these little cubes obviously provide ballast, but they also seem to melt fuzzily into the sauce. So in goes my fusilloni. A bit of a stir. And I have to say, that pasta pan is really working because I have another thing to add to it. As ever, I love cooking greens with pasta. I'm using cavolo nero here, which literally means black cabbage in Italian. I love its sturdiness and mineraliness. Right, in this goes. I'm going to try and do it a bit gently. And you know, when I said that this is a near instant sauce, I wasn't exaggerating in the slightest. So, melt a bit of butter. I use butter here rather than, say, oil, because its sweetness really seems to balance the fabulous fieriness of the indua. And more, it seems as well to help thicken the sauce. A couple of splodges of the soft, spicy, squidgy indua. The way that indua is spelt looks to us as if it should be pronounced induja, but you can remember its correct pronunciation if you think of saying, "Induja, want to eat now?" Yes? And that's a sauce. Let's see how we're doing in the very, very full pasta pot. Right, the potatoes are soft. Those sturdy spirals are ready. Now, the tough Tuscan kale is now tender, but still with chew. Right, I'm gonna toss this patiently and hungrily. There may be a faster pasta sauce, but I haven't encountered it. Gorgeous. When the skies are dark and the air chill, this really bolsters and brightens. Look at that. Now, what I like is a green trickle of extra virgin olive oil. It gives me life. Fish and chips, eggs and bacon, colcannon and my black pudding meatballs. Some foods are just made for one another. And what I'm talking about is rich, buttery, kale-flecked mash with soft, sweet meatballs in tomato sauce. If you're after deep-flavoured wintry comfort, look no further. I begin by making the sauce for the meatballs. And as so often, this starts with a chopped onion, which I cook patiently until soft. Now, all I need to do is add some freshly chopped parsley, dried thyme, and a clove of garlic. Then I need a tin of chopped tomatoes, and as ever, I swill the tin out with cold water before tipping that in too. I dollop in some tomato puree for sweetness and depth, shake in some Worcester sauce, and sprinkle in sea salt flakes. Then I give it all a stir and let it simmer away while I get on with the meatballs. I love making meatballs. It reminds me of making them with my children when they were small. Their little hands perfectly sized for rolling. Not that I would have made these then. The black pudding would have been wasted on them. Actually, it's wasted on a lot of people, so I make these just for those who are predisposed to adore it. And for myself, I come into that category. I use half as much black pudding as I do minced beef. Don't get low-fat beef, whatever you do. And on top of these, a fat clove of garlic. I'm echoing the flavours of the sauce. Parsley, again. And some dried thyme. But I'm adding some chives as well. Meatballs always have to be packed with flavour, and I'm adding a teeny bit of chilli flakes. A bit of heat in there is so right with that sort of deepness of the black pudding, that gamey sausage pâté. Some porridge oats. Now, I use these just to add a bit of lightness to the meatballs. You know, you can use breadcrumbs, but there's oats in black pudding, so I use them here, and they absorb the flavours of the meat, of the spices, and, importantly, the salt. You need quite a lot, and a really good grinding of pepper. I use white pepper. Finally, an egg. Oh, and now I can get stuck in. And now I can just get a roll in. I like to make these quite small. You may sound strange, but I find such beauty in this bowl. That wonderful red, the black flecked with green. One of the great joys of these repetitive processes. Ask nothing of me except for my hands to rule. I now gently drop these beauties into the sauce, aiming, if not succeeding, for concentric circles. Then when they're all cosily nestled in, I leave them to bubble away for 30 minutes covered. The meatballs are done, and I need something for the colcannon, which brings me back to the cupboard of culinary clutter. And I keep vowing to myself that I'm going to pare it all down and not add anything new to it. Well, yeah, well, that hasn't happened, has it? So I have got a rather exciting, recent acquisition, well, fairly recent. Let's get rid of these a minute, which is a tigella maker. And a tigella is a flatbread from Modena in Italy, a little flatbread, and it is spelt like Nigella, only with a T instead of an N, and yes, that is why I got it. And it's very heavy. So you put the dough in here, and then you clamp it shut, and then you turn it over. And the reason I haven't used it is because actually I'd have to do so much more weight training even to be able to lift it up to the stove. Oh, and this is another new addition to the C of CC, a cherry stoner. It came without instructions, not that a normal person should need such a thing, and I used it, the first time at least, without any practical sense or, frankly, intelligence. And I used it upside down and like that, and I shot myself in the forehead with a cherry pit. But what I need now is something that a friend of mine gave me as a joke, and I need, in all seriousness, well, semi-seriousness, for my colcannon. My potatoes are beckoning me, but then potatoes always beckon me. So I've cooked them whole. These have been boiled and drained, and I've just been keeping them warm and drying them out a bit in the hot pan. And I'm ready to set to with my mechanical masher. Now, I'm aiming for quite a solid mash at this stage, but I still need a bit of milk, full fat, which I've warmed in the microwave. One of the reasons you don't have to worry about leaving the skin in the mashed potatoes is that you're going to add cabbage, or in my case, kale. So it's never going to have a smooth texture, and it's not meant to. So here's my kale, properly cooked, really cooked. And although I have been draining it, I want to give it a squeeze to get any excess water out. And now I am going to chop the kale. By chop, I just mean get my scissors onto every little bit, snip away. There we are. This is what begins to turn mash into colcannon. This is going to be brown butter colcannon, so I better start browning my butter. But first, I have some spring onions to slice. I want all the white and the green. Brown butter is literally that. I'm cooking this butter until it browns. The French call it beurre noisette, and it is indeed hazelnut brown by the time it's ready, but it also has a sort of a distinct, rich nuttiness. I think of it really as caramelised butter, with all the gorgeousness that implies. Is there anything better than a butter facial? I'm going to give a bit of a scrape at the bottom. And the speckles are wonderful and dark. We're nearly at hazelnut brown. I'm going to take the lid off my potatoes in readiness because I will have to act fast. Right. Throw in the spring onions, or scallions, as I feel I should call them in the context of colcannon. And in this goes. Look at that gorgeousness. You see, I love those black speckles. A lot of people, especially in restaurants, they like to sieve that out, but there's so much flavour. And now you can see why I wanted the mash to be slightly more solid earlier, because look at that texture with all this brown butter. Dolloping time. The reason I've left those peaks is because I got a little bit more brown butter and spring onions to sprinkle on top. That black speckles, my black speckled scallions. These are dreamy enough just as they are, but I'm all for maximising pleasure. And it's meatball time. Come here, my babies. Maybe one more. And I'm going for the double allium effect. I'm going to sprinkle with some chives. Sheer happiness.